very well, is it? Whew. Well, hey everybody, Barry here again. You can pretty much tell by now that that thing is cooked. It's squeaking and squawking and scrunching. It's a bad time. That's why this and this are going in there. Basically, I'm just gonna get this thing out. I've done this a handful of times on this now, so if you want to see the detailed version of pulling this engine out and stuff, check back a couple of videos. I'll stop in random sections anyway, just for commentary. Hi, Chloe. Chloe will also give commentary. And I'm gonna pull this engine out. Right now, I'm gonna dump the water. And by water, I don't mean coolant. I mean, it has tap water in it. So I'm gonna dump it out here, swish it out there. The rad doesn't have any coolant in it. This is my third time. This will be my third time emptying this. So there's nothing but water left in it anyway. No environmental hazard. The block never had coolant in it, that kind of thing. So it's all good. Don't call the EPA. It's fine. And oh, also Lillian. Hi, Lillian.
Hi.
Hey. And yeah, let's pull the front clip off of this thing. Get this pile of junk out. Lily, what do you think of in there? You think it's going to be a big job? It's going to work well? We're going to do Spoolie Boy third gear launches. Or third gear transbrake sloppy launches. I like it. Cool. Well, I'm going to go dump this thing out, put it on a ramp, and get it sorted out again. Okay, just to show you how dedicated I am, I haven't cleaned the windshield from when the first engine exploded and put oil all over the windshield. Yeah, there you go. That's dirt, oil, and dust. And now it has a heart on it. Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah, go wash your hands. So, yeah, I haven't even cleaned the windows in this shit thing yet. I haven't had a chance to drive it. I've probably got 4 hours actually driving this thing. I got more time starting it up and tuning it than I do actually driving it. So that shows you something. So obviously this thing is coming out. This is staying. We know that's not the root of any trouble at all. It's because I painted it plum crazy purple and there's some Ford blue down here. That's why these engine and transmission aren't getting painted. This is just a muffler. What do you think? Is that way too loud and squawky and clunky?
I couldn't really hear because I was plugging my ears.
It's probably better off. So, yeah, this is, it's not staying like this. Voice grips and the PCM hanging off here. Yeah.
Before, I think you had like the engine painted purple in one of these cars. How did that not blow up?
They all blow up. Everything blows up. Yeah.
Technically, everything Dad makes blows up.
You know me so well. Also, I've been kind of putting a little bit of thought into if anybody would like to work together on like sponsorship opportunities or anything like that. I'm not a big channel, but you know, it would help support the channel. It would help support your business for my little few viewers that I have. And I think it'd be really cool. You know, like if you had like a spare Proline 481X or something like that hanging around, you know, I'm not gonna turn you down. I'm just kidding. But, so yeah, if anybody ever thought about sponsoring smaller channels to help them grow, you know, down home, backyard channels like this, not a big guy, not a huge budget for doing stuff like this, just working out of what I have built up over a little bit of time. And I really appreciate you guys watching and subscribing, all that fun stuff. So if anybody wants to shoot off an email or anything like that, I'll put it down in the description. And I really appreciate you watching again. Let's get this junk taken apart so I can put more junk in the junk. Well, that's getting somewhere really fast. Here's the pile of stuff that came out of it. It's not serious. There's only like probably 10 or 11 bolts right now that I had to take out. That's holding all this stuff in. That's the nice thing about everything being like quick release. I'm actually considering putting the battery right down here. Or potentially, I don't know about over there. Maybe the PCM will go right there. Girls giggling away. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put the battery down here on the outside of the frame rail. I saw that Boosted Boys had that done on the Routacy, and it's a wicked idea because, man, I hate seeing a battery. It's not very race car looking. Battery should be in the trunk or down in the fender or somewhere where you can't really see it. Plus, it gets rid of the big tangle of wires that goes to the battery. The PCM is actually, or not the PCM, sorry, the fuse block is actually not in a bad location right here. It's tucked out of the way. But if I can move that down here, wouldn't be much to make a bracket because there's a pile of room down here. Well, you can see it really well now, actually. I can just make up a little bracket and hang it right here in front of the tire. And this is the same location that the older Sebrings used. I had a Chrysler Cirrus that was like it. Mostly all those full-size Mopar cars did it. And are you guys coming over to say hi to the YouTubes? Hello. And hi, Chloe. Yeah, so that's the plan there. I'll probably put the PCM right down here out of the way, but have it covered so no stuff gets at it, no water or anything. And yeah, that's pretty much all there to it. I have to disconnect the steering shaft down here, inside the interior. I've got to disconnect this from the top of the transmission, which is way inside of there. Disconnect the clutch. Then I can put it up on the ramp and basically undo the lower ball joint and the 6 bolts that hold the cradle up. Well, yeah, lower ball joint on both sides. And the 6 bolts that hold the cradle up, and 2 tie rod ends on the knuckle, and then everything can lay on jack stands and the van can rise right up off of it. If you haven't seen it before, it's really, really cool to look at, so I'll do it in full time this time just to, you know, kind of show you, because it's not something that you would expect that the van would just rise right up off of the engine just as it sits right there. It's quite the sight. So yeah, let's keep cracking away at it, see if I can get this engine out tonight. Down to the last final touches. Everything here is undone. Sway bar link is let go from the strut up here. Ball joint is let go. Tie rod is let go, so that way the cradle is completely separate from the strut assembly. Now you can sort of see what I did and how much work it was to mount the LS onto the stock van cradle. The only parts that are left actually from the stock van cradle is this little section right here and this little section over here where the control arms bolt on. Everything else I made up. All of this up here where the sway bar bolts onto, the bars going across, and also up here where the transmission bolts onto. I had to make all that too. As it sits, I have to take out a bolt right here, one that's sort of tucked away up there, and here on each side, and everything that's here will lay down on the floor. So basically what I have to do now is disconnect my drive shaft, because that runs up, of course, and goes into the back of the transmission. And then it can come down. Oh, also I have to unbolt my remote oil filter, because that one is plumbed into the engine. So this is all a bit messy here at the moment. I had to chop it all up when the wiring all caught fire. As you can see right here, that was part of a ground wire. This all caught fire next to this manifold here. But another hour or so and this thing should be planted securely on the ground. Then I can start getting this madness put where that is. When I built this thing, I was really concerned about making this as fast as possible to remove an engine, replace the engine, replace transmission, anything. So everything is minimal. There's no unnecessary, overdone anything. So like the remote oil filter mount isn't snaked in around the frame rails, all that stuff. I undo one bolt that lays down with the engine, done. The steering shaft, same idea. One bolt, separate that, done. You know, you got stuff like ball joints and tie rods and stuff like that, but you're gonna have that anyway. But my main concern was to be able to remove the engine as it sits the exact same way as the Caravan engine. And right now I can actually remove this 5.3 quicker than the 3.6. So I'm really excited about that. I love progress. And progress is a little bit slow tonight, but I really shouldn't be saying slow because, dude, the engine is out and it worked really well. Frampton was up and gave me a hand putting the engine and transmission together because I had it balanced on a block of wood and it wasn't lining up right, so he gave me a hand with that. And Justin's welding held up perfectly. There was a hair of a gap right here when this bolt and this bolt were not tight but flush into the block. There was a little bit of a gap, but I just drew it in slowly with this bolt and everything went in perfect. And there's no real gap down there, so that's all good. Everything is bolted together. I had 3/16 of an inch between a torque converter and the flex plate with the torque converter bottomed out all the way into the oil pump. So that's perfect. An 1/8 of an inch to 3/16 of an inch is what a couple of the boys on Sloppy told me is the allowable distance from the torque converter being bottomed out to the flex plate, so that it's not too tight if it was less than that for expansion, or if it was too loose, that if I had to draw the converter too far out of the oil pump, then it would cause issues with the bushing and cause issues with wearing the oil pump or breaking, that kind of thing. And 3/16 is fine because this is not an anti-ballooning torque converter. It's just a stock machine. So when I put power through it and get traction, that converter is going to expand. And I'd rather have 3/16 of space than an 1/8. So that technical stuff out of the way, that's fine. Basically, what I'm going to be doing right now is taking all this junk and putting it on that engine. Or I'll probably just take it off there first, actually lay it on the floor, get this engine in place there. I think it's like 4 inches longer. So I may be able to just flip this plate around. But when I get the transmission off, I'm going to cut this one off anyway. Although it looks so beautiful. The welding came out awesome. I didn't even grind it or anything. So I'll just run a zip disc around there and cut that off. I don't think the oil pan is going to fit where this bar is. So I may have to lay it down in place, take a chunk out of this, and move it ahead and then weld it across there, which is not a big deal. It just would have been nice to be able to keep it there. A lot of stuff going on here now. We pulled the plugs out of this engine. They looked really good. It was quite rich. So my last task before tonight is out is to get that engine scrapped down. Just pull off the top end, pull the intake out of it, that kind of thing. And probably pull it off of the cradle if I have time, but I think I'll probably give up because it's like 2 o'clock in the morning now or something like that. And I got 2 little girls who are going to wake up at 6 and definitely get me up. So finish this off, pull the accessory drive off of it. Later on, when I get at this, get the other engine in, I'm going to redo my power steering hoses because that is disgusting looking. I was in a rush. I had to get it done for a burnout competition, so I did that. But that's pretty much it. Let's start scrapping it. This is going super well tonight. Oh, I'm so excited. Engine is out. Well, engine and transmission. Here we can see the whole unit. This is going to go back to my garage. This is going to go back in the rat rod. And I'll pull anything that's any good out of it. Hopefully the block is good, because that's the first 5.3 that I had in the rat rod. The first LS that I had in the rat rod. The one that's, well, you know, the Ford Blue part. And that I got a little bit of sentimental connection to that one because it was my first one. It treated me extremely well. I blew it up 3 times and it never let me down at all until I put it in the van and it had a knock. It didn't have a knock when I pulled it out of the rat rod, so I don't know what's going on. But either way, this thing is ready to go on there, or at least be mocked up. What I'm going to have to do is cut out this cross member, move it ahead 3 or 4 inches, but I'd like to leave probably this much, right where that cross member goes here. Michael Morgan commented on my video a little while ago and said that I should run some spanners from this bar here out to the cradle. That way it's got some protection against moving like this, especially with the extra weight of the 4L80. So I'll definitely be doing something like that. And I think I might, I don't know if I'll be able to get away with leaving that one there in case I do put a manual back in it at some point, which I hope I don't. And maybe just make another plate back here for the extra 4 inches. Because I think the bolt is going to be about right here. And when I cut this out to make room for a pan, I'll put another bar across directly ahead of the pan. That way, if I ever have to service the transmission, I'll just be able to put it up in the air, unbolt the pan, and change the filter or mess with the valve body or whatever I have to do. There won't be this big bar directly under it, so I'll have to do all of this just to change transmission fluid. So that's all going to be in another video because I'm all done with this one. I wanted to get the engine out, get it off the cradle, all the accessory drive, which is right here, manifolds, water pump, intake, all that fun stuff. That's ready to be bolted back on this engine when it's in place. I'm not going bolting all the accessories on and then have to take the engine out to go welding and cutting and all that stuff. Just seems counterproductive. So I'll start that up in another video. But until then, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, liking the videos, sharing them around. I really appreciate it. And have a good night, everybody.